Russell Johnson, the professor from Gilligan's Island, goes back in time to stop the Lincoln assassination in this episode of The Twilight Zone. Season 2, Episode 13, Back There, starts in a very casual way, with people sitting around a table discussing whether time travel is actually possible. They reference H.G. Wells, who in 1895 wrote the book The Time Machine. Our main character, Peter Corrigan, is skeptical of this idea. He thinks if you go back in time, you wouldn't be able to change anything. First example that is brought up is that of the stock market. If you could go back before the stock market crash, would you be able to stop it, or would you just make it worse? They then talk about what would happen if someone could travel back in time to April 14th, 1865, and prevent John Wilkes Booth from assassinating Abraham Lincoln. And as this is brought up, Peter does get transported back in time. Now, it would have been nice if we knew exactly how he was transported back in time. I mean, at least have him walk down some alleyway, even do a line Witch in the Wardrobe where he goes through a wardrobe. Instead, he just immediately gets transferred back into 1865. Unlike a lot of the heroes we see on the Twilight Zone, he catches on immediately what's going on. He knows he's been transported back in time, doesn't waste the first 10 minutes just going, is this the 1800s? Is this the 1800s? It's like, yeah, obviously. There's horse and buggy. Everyone's dressed like the 1800s. He catches on very quickly and goes to the Forest Theater to try to warn people that this assassination is going to take place. He causes a ruckus and then he gets into custody of a guy by the name of Jonathan Wellington. Well, at least we think it's a guy named Jonathan Wellington. He offers him a drink and listens to Peter talk about how Lincoln's going to be assassinated and they have to stop him. We realize that this person is not Jonathan Wellington. It's John Wilkes Booth himself. He has his initials transcribed on a napkin, and he ends up drugging Peter. Now, of course, Russell Johnson is best known for playing Professor Roy Hinckley in 98 episodes of Gilligan's Island from 1964 to 1967. He was also in This Island Earth as Dr. Steve, and It Came from Outer Space as George. John Wilkes Booth has outsmarted. He heard him causing a ruckus outside Ford's Theater as he was casing it, and now he has successfully been able to assassinate Abraham Lincoln. So basically, Peter completely failed. He didn't do anything. He gets transported back to his own time, 1961. Interestingly, however, as he returns to the Potomac Club where he was gathering around with the other distinguished gentlemen, he asks for his attendant William, and people look at him in a confused manner. He goes back to the table with his other friends. He finds the discussion is not about time travel anymore, but is about how to gain wealth, and William, who was his servant, is now at the table, smoking a cigar. William's a rich man now. He's not waiting on them hand and foot, he's part of them. And William says that he inherited wealth from his great-grandfather, who was a policeman. He was one of the few people, when Peter went back in time, yelling into this crowd, that actually believed him that Lincoln was going to be assassinated. So after the assassination happened, he was able to become a bit of a star, do some travel around the country, doing some interviews, giving some speeches, making some money. So he was able to attain a lot of wealth that he passed down to his children. And this is, of course, a very smart way of Rod Serling making the point that even though Peter didn't stop the assassination of Lincoln, because he went out to this Ford's Theater as people were gathering and created a complete scene, he was able to change the events of history a little bit. And this actually makes complete sense. It's also not something that you would predict, but it makes sense. If you say someone's going to get assassinated, no one believes you, but there's one person that does believe you and they try to stop it, and then the person gets assassinated, then that person becomes a star. That is completely plausible. And it will change the course of history, just not in a huge way. So, good episode. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's well written, and they don't spend too much time on the Lincoln assassination. In fact, you never even see a characterization of Lincoln or the theater itself. Probably would have been too expensive to do that. And overall, I think it's a good Twilight Zone. But one thing that's lost in the shuffle of the really, really excellent ones. It's just not super exciting. It's well written. It has a very plausible twist at the end. But maybe they could have chose something more exciting than the assassination of Lincoln. I don't know, maybe could have stopped some wars or something. Couldn't he stop World War II or something? It feels realistic. It's making the point that the past is more resistant to change than we think. I've seen other stories where someone goes back in time, says one word to someone, and all of a sudden it changes the entire history, which wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. But in this small way, he was able to help a lowly servant go into the upper class. Also, knowing the future does not automatically give him the ability to control it. His knowledge is a bit of a burden. He has to convince them in a way that seems believable. Just raving on the side of a street corner isn't going to convince anyone. He knows it's going to happen. He isn't able to really convince anyone to have it stop. And the one person he trusts, it turns out to be John Wilkes Booth. Oh, that's the least trustworthy person. And a fun piece of trivia back there was adapted as a short story in one of the Twilight Zone anthology books. They changed the ending slightly. At the end, Peter has this handkerchief from John Wilkes Booth, but in the book he actually finds an unused ticket from the Ford's Theater. Next up is episode 14, The Whole Truth. About a sleazy car salesman that buys a car that is haunted. And check out our playlist for the other series we've covered. We've done Monsters, Fear Itself, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Dark Side, Black Mirror. Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I like covering every single episode. Thank you.